Welcome to Food Shrinks.
Hey, everyone. We are back with another Q&A session with Food Shrinks. And our first question is, approaching Christmas, I have one overarching concern. My love language to my adult children and grandchildren is cooking for them. I love to cook for them. I cook foods I know they love, and I cook foods that are family traditions because they appreciate it. How do I switch this desire off? It's not that they expect sugar and floury foods, it's not that they demand them. It's in me. I want to cook them. It's like my love language. I give the gift of yummy food. Please, with respect, please don't simplify this by saying just change your recipes to be sugar-free and flour-free. I've done that successfully for Easter and birthdays and other occasions this year, but it's so ingrained in me that I want to cook sugary and floury foods because that's how I've shown love when we gather together. Most of them live out of state, so getting together is a really big effort and a huge time commitment. It's a big deal when we're together. Thanks for considering the question.
You're welcome for considering the question. We consider all the questions. This is our favorite thing to do is answer the questions. Well, we have a lot of it. Also, I want to remind you, if you're watching YouTube, we had a juicy relationship talk. Clarissa and I are talking about our relationships before we got on. We get to 100,000 subscribers. We're going to talk to you about our relationships, but not until then. Okay. I have a real take on this.
Good. I could see your face. I think you did.
I have two takes on this. Well, so like I'm a true harm reductionist. So I'm assuming this thing in here, which is our favorite thing to talk about. I'm assuming somebody said to this wonderful woman that she shouldn't be cooking her favorite foods for her family. So like nowhere in this question have I heard, well, I'm cooking these high sugar, whatever foods for my family, and I'm binging my brains out on them. And my mind obsession can't. I mean, as I'm hearing this question read, this is not a problem. Maybe we should talk about this in two ways. Yeah. But like, as I'm reading this, go on with your bad self. Like,
Agreed.
Why would you do if it doesn't impact your recovery? There's one of my really good friends, Amy, cooks so many baked this that it doesn't impact her. She doesn't have the obsession does not happen for her. It doesn't trigger her. It's a nothing burger. So if it's a nothing burger for you, and by the way, Clarissa, if there's a coach telling you not to do that and it's not a problem, fire your coach because that's her problem or his problem or their. Yeah. So that's my first take. But I want to talk about if it does trigger you, but let's talk about this one first.
Yeah, I'm with you. It sounds like like you said, the question doesn't, nowhere in there does it say, oh, but it's such a struggle for me. And so it does make me wonder if this is outside noise, like this belief of like, oh, I'm quote poisoning my family by continuing to do this, or there's some sort of some sort of negative messaging around it. But if this were me and it's my love language and it doesn't bother me to make those things because this is me and this is what I do, it doesn't bother me to do these things. I bake with my children, whatever, and they're not eating alternative flours and alternative sweeteners and whatever. Do it. Who says that's wrong? I don't know.
I think a lot of people say it's wrong.
Well, sure. But I mean, who are they to me? I mean, are they paying my bills? Are they sleeping next to me in my bed? Are they, if they're not doing those things, it probably doesn't matter to me.
Yeah. I can totally understand though, if this is somebody who's in recovery and then, even with the food addiction world, there was, even when I was early in recovery and I was working with clients and sometimes I did things that like might've been where I was like, oh, I couldn't let people know this because then they might think I'm not in recovery. So is that showing up? Right? Is like, am I doing this wrong? Should I not be doing this because I'm putting myself at risk? And again, it's like, I think, I could for sure bake whatever cake. I don't like to bake, but I could. And there's nothing about it that makes me want to eat it. And it's not a trigger. It's not a cue for me. I know this about myself now in recovery. And like, I think this person sounds like this is something that's also about like love, tradition, connection, and it sounds like it's meaning and purpose to this person. Yeah. So I think, again, that sounds really important to continue on.
To thine own self be true. Yes. And here is the note, I think, which is there's an essence of this question that actually doesn't allow this beautiful writer to even give herself an opportunity to know herself as she's cooking. Like,
Yes.
girl, you're the boss. You're the boss. You're the architect. And so I think it's like, because this is like, so my experience of recovery, I feel very certain this is like a trio, but it's like, I don't know. Also, some days I'm triggered and some days I'm not. Like, there may be some days I'm able to make, what do you call it at your house, Clarissa? The crack?
Christmas crack. Yeah.
Yeah, like there may be some days that making the Christmas crack is like, hey, no big deal. And then there may be some days where I'm like, you know what? I really want to put my finger in that. And when you're judging whether or not it's good or bad or whatever nuance or whatever is behind this question, you actually don't give yourself. This is all about relationship with self, right? Like you don't actually give yourself a space to really know that the food is always going to be nuanced. It's always going to be, it depends. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah, I think a really interesting question that this person could ask themselves, or anybody could ask themselves, is like, what would let me know this
Mhm.
is a loving decision for me, or right, or safe for me, or something? Like, what would let me know? What would I need to look for, see, experience to know this is a good move on my part to make these things?
It's so good.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
is so good.
So what's
And
the second take? What's the
well, the
second take?
second take would be like this thing she didn't write, but maybe applies to other people watching this, which is I make this food for my family. It's more of a, as we say, an outlet, like it's more of a fog. I make it
Mhm.
from fear, obligation, and guilt. It's really
Mhm.
hard for me too, but don't you dare tell me. I love that. But by the way, that is my
Yeah.
favorite part of like, I don't say that making fun of you if you're the writer. I say it
No.
because my namaste
Yeah.
protector. I'm like, don't you tell me. But yeah, like that's a real bind to be in, right? Like these people expect this from me. They live far away, this is how I love them, and it's really really hard on my recovery. What do I do?
Mhm.
That's a I think a more traditional question. This first
Definitely.
question is you do you, boo, right?
Right.
But this other one I think is very common with, especially in early recovery. What do you guys think?
Yeah, and I think if that is what this writer's truth is can you see like other things in your family relationship that symbolize this like togetherness, this nostalgia, this joy, rather than cooking? And if, it sounds like this person's love language that we were just talking about is
We
acts of,
were.
right? Acts of service. So cooking is how they show care, but it's obviously not the only way that you can nurture and create these meaningful connections. So, what are other ways that you could incorporate into the holiday? And, if there are, some of these dishes that maybe you're not triggered around having, like, making, but don't mind at your house, is there other family members who you could share the recipe with and like even guide them through it and like, work with them so you don't have to be putting your recovery at risk,
Right.
essentially.
Yeah. I,
Yeah.
I I love that take. And like I think the take also is if like if you're really determined to make it, I'm not going to stand in your way. But I
Yeah.
would consider two things. I would consider first, like I used to always say this thing about like have if you need to have a cake at your house and dark chocolate cake is your favorite, don't have dark chocolate cake at your house. If you're like neutral about key lime pie, then bring a key lime pie to the party. So it's like, okay, can we look through these recipes and see which ones are the least activating and that they still love? Like I
Yeah.
would rank all the recipes and I'd be like, okay, the one that is the least, I would make the low end. I wouldn't make the things that trigger you if we must be making these things. I'm going with
Right.
that. And then I think the other thing is like sort of what we were talking about on a different holiday episode. Like you guys, guys challenge me on this, but like maybe you could like white knuckle your way through making it and just make sure you do like a boatload of offloading the dysregulation and craving when you're done, which is be like make the phone calls, go to the meetings, do the bath, do the ice bath. I don't know. What do you guys think of that one?
Yeah, I also think that's going to give you a lot of information, right? Is like, this is potentially an experiment to see, could I do this next year? Is this true for me now that
Yeah.
I can't make it? And us sitting here telling you is not going to give you your answer. Sometimes you have to practice and see if this is something that you can do on your own. You will know. I think
Our food
once you
addiction coaches around the world
will be
just
dying.
cowering right now. We're like, but we're telling everybody that they're incapable. But we're telling everybody that, this is like a brand new take. Let's just be clear.
Yeah,
Yeah. I just
definitely.
think like every time I've worked with a client and they've done an experiment like this, it has, and whether it's worked or it's not worked, it's made their answer really clear for the
And
future.
empowered them. And empowered them.
Yeah.
Instead of us being like,
Oh,
you're a heroin addict. You can't touch sugar. It's like,
yeah, I don't know that.
all
Well,
right.
I think our final message, though, to the original question, this idea of how do I switch this desire off? But meanwhile, having said, I love in all capital letters to cook for them. I think, the answer here is like, if you love it and you want to know how to switch that off, I don't know that I can tell you that answer because I wouldn't want you to switch that off if that's who you really are. To go back to Molly's first, take on this whole thing, like you do you, boo. So
Yeah.
be sure to keep asking us questions. Ask the shrinks at foodshrinks.com.
We love you.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to Food Shrinks. Quick reminder, this podcast isn't a substitute for professional medical advice. Always consult your healthcare provider for guidance suited to your needs. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe to help us reach others on the recovery journey. Take care and remember, freedom with food is possible. See you next time.